Doing another Ask Me Anything format. Um, no one's actually in the chat room yet. So, when I talk, this is for people watching this on replay, people watching the replay of the live. I think would appreciate the fact that I'm not just staring into the void until people in the chat room come up. Um, because I've seen a lot of people do that, and it looks weird as hell when they're literally just looking on, not saying anything. These are usually low quality content creators anyway. And honestly, I don't even know why they do it when they'll have like one or two people to talk to, but be on for like 3 hours. I'm like, why? Like, what? Now, I will do a live stream without any participation if I have information that I just want to share. And then afterwards, I will get off. But I don't understand the folks that will do it and then not say anything or do anything, or they'll just have the video, they'll just have the camera aimed outside uh, you know, outside the window or something. It's weird, but you know, to each their own. But yeah, again, this is Ask Me Anything format, so I'm here to ask any random questions. Hey Tina, what's up? I wonder when you will be back. This is my Ask Me Anything, Tina, when I just like take random questions from people in the chat room. Um, I like doing these because this tends to get me a lot of new followers when I have like this Ask Me Anything format and they can just ask me questions. Because usually I'll do specific topics and then people will come in here and ask me random questions. And I'm like, yeah, you gotta stick to the topic. But, you know, oh, she's not much been busy. Let's see. How have you been? I've been fine. I've been nursing an injury, so if I seem a little laid back, it's because it's because I've taken some muscle relaxer. Like I'm on some Motrin muscle relaxer and uh, steroid prednisone. I've I've never taken all of this before. Of course, I never had an injury like this before, which will heal. Oh, and shout out to is it Karabor Ovich 101? Thank you uh, for the super gift. Appreciate that. And while you're here, like I said, for everyone coming in, if any of you guys have questions, please ask me. This is Ask Me Anything Thursday or Thursday, the day of Thor. um, actually, to be a nerd for a second, well, I am a nerd. You know that every holiday is named after a god, right? Either either a Roman god or a Scandinavian god. And actually, what they have done is usually they merge the two. Like they'll be named after both a Roman god and a uh, one of the Scandinavian gods. So Thursday is the most obviously Thor's day. Like when they said that in the MCU, they weren't kidding. That is true. But yeah, guys, ask me questions. Feel free to ask me some. I'm gonna set my little gift goal here. Oh, and I'm gonna set another gift goal here. So if people want to drop either a gift or a super chat, I will teach you guys martial arts technique, and I will do it because I did it last week. We hit our goal last week with that, and because I hit the gifts goal, I taught people some nice martial arts, very practical that anyone can do, not something you have to rehearse for like 5 years to learn. It was like something down and dirty that could be very effective. So I'll do that every time I hit my goal. Oh, she's I didn't know that. That was a nice bit of information. Yeah, all of them. Sunday named after the sun god, which differed in Greek and Roman and in Scandinavian. But you know, then you had Monday, which is the moon. So that was named after another deity, and so forth. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all of them. Tomorrow will be Friday, which is named after the Scandinavian goddess Freya. Or is it Freya or Frigga? I think it's Freya. But yeah, so for everyone in the chat room, what's going on? Just a Contrarian. Um, Feel free to ask me questions on anything. I always say I only give three provisos. Like you guys in the chat room, you can ask me anything that you like. All I ask is one, that it be family friendly, and if it's some sort of like serious relationship question, drop a super chat and I'll answer that. And third, I won't be doing legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, despite how I may look. um, I, I will wonder why someone would even ask a random person legal advice online anyway. That's not a great way to deal with any sort of legal process. Your best bet is to consult an attorney immediately. And some attorneys, if you're talking about not criminal, but if you're talking about civil stuff, not criminal, often you can retain them for free. So might want to look into that. Tina says, if you were to name a Pomeranian or Chihuahua mixed dog, what dog, what, what god would you name it? A Pomeranian and Chihuahua? Um, and it's small? I don't know. If I was, if I wanted to be fun, if I wanted to be funny, I would name him Cthulhu. uh, what would be some other god? There's so many gods out there. Um, I don't know if you wanted to lean into its Mexican heritage, you could call it Quetzalcoatl, but that would be a mouthful to every time you call for a dog. Quetzalcoatl, Quetzalcoatl, get your butt over here. Quetzalcoatl, did you shit on the carpet? Did you shit on the carpet, Quetzalcoatl? I'm joking. I'm joking, of course, but I don't know a god's name for a dog. Um, oh, Anubis. There you go, Anubis. That that might work right there, Anubis. Um, God is the way and the score for you says, yo, I just wanted to say that God made you great, and I hope everything you're working for comes together. Take it easy and keep going. You have a blessed rest of your day. Oh, appreciate that. Thank you. Tina says a female. Okay. Oh, I don't think Cthulhu has a sex. I mean, I guess you might automatically assume Cthulhu being this multi-dimensional demonic being is a guy, but I don't think Cthulhu had a sex. I don't know. Quetzalcoatl, I think, was a male god. Uh, and then who I say Anubis. I mean, I think Anubis. Yeah, Anubis is a male god as well. God, like for a female dog, I have no idea. Um, Lilith. um, I don't know. There's so many names of gods out there. I can't recall all of them, especially the female gods, because usually they, um, well, depending on, I guess which uh, which god. Uh, I don't know. I guess it depends on what theogony you're pursuing. It's a number of things you could name it. Delisa Goodwin says hello. What's up? Tina says I'm supposed to be getting a puppy in a couple weeks from a friend of mine. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want a God's name, I would just run it through. I would like run it through Google or Chat GPT to see, and that could probably give you a large list of God's names because, like I said, there's thousands of gods out there, like thousands. I'm not even exaggerating. You probably, if anything, you'll probably get if it gives you an exhaustive list of gods, you'll probably get tired once you get through like 50 of them. Um, but with me, I would probably name it after something dealing with like a Greek god. So you got Minerva and Athena, Gaia. I think this is thank you for the thought and bit of information. I will definitely do that. No problem. I wanted to do a live stream where I would bring on guests. I tried to do that yesterday, but no one stepped up. So I'm not going to do it today. I might try again this weekend to run that back and see if people want to come up and cam up and talk to me live. I think a lot of people are too nervous to do so. Although I've told folks that if they want, they don't have to show their face if they want to get on camera. Like they can wear a mask or be in the dark or do a voice modulator. It didn't matter to me. Um, only thing I was going to require is to I would have to like make sure they're squared away before they come on the camera because you get some folks that might try to do something lewd, and the problem is if a guest does something lewd on your on your stream, the YouTuber is still held liable for what that person did on their stream. That's how some people have gotten their channels removed. Is I hope whatever's ailing you gets better soon. This is a leg injury, minor leg injury. Should be good to go. I mean, I'm still working out and all that stuff. So, but yeah, guys. So, anyone here? I know the chat room fluctuates with the number of people in it, but guys, feel free to ask me questions. Tina says you're definitely, and then you would be in trouble for what that person does, right? I saw one channel get temporarily removed, the Lapeef Network, because they had someone come up on camera, and I think they flashed everyone on screen, and they got them taken down, but they brought the channel back up. I think after a week or two, I guess they worked it out with YouTube. So yeah, because one of my friends was like, oh, one of my friends watching last night, he was like, "Oh, he said that's good. You make sure that people get appropriately dressed." I was like, "Well, no, I have to tell them that because people people will do weird things on camera just to troll." And I was like, "All any streamer that I've seen has always vetted who comes on their video first. Kevin Samuels would vet the people before he lets them be on camera with him on the stream. And most other folks I saw who would invite guests onto that platform all did the same thing. Like they all would vet the people before they come on there. So that's he probably just doesn't watch those sort of things, but every streamer that invites guests on, like random guests um, out of their chat room, they all do the same thing where they vet the person first, make sure they're appropriately dressed, that they're not gonna do something obscene, you know. But I definitely would like to invite random guests from the chat room, and they can ask, they can ask me questions, um, or challenge me to some sort of debate, or they can just help me um, talk with other people in the chat room. Then I also get weirdos who ask to be moderators. Not you, Tina, but like it'll be like random people who've never talked, never, who've never been on my lives before, or never commented if they have been on here before, and we'll just all automatically be like, let me be a moderator. I'm like, no, who the hell are you? Like that's very weird that someone would just like randomly, like not contribute anything to like the live stream or talk or anything. They'll just randomly be like, "Let me be a moderator." I'm like, "Why? No." And I think that maybe many of them have the impression that if you make them a moderator, they can fuck with your channel or something like that. So that's why that's why I always tell these people no, because I know it's some little weirdo. It's probably like some 15-year-old bottom. Let me stop. I was about to say something mean. I think yeah, I've been on channels that have had that happen to them. What do you mean, like, um, with you mean when they bring on a guest and they do something obscene, or you mean when or do you mean what I was talking, the other thing I was just talking about with with the people coming on asking to be a moderator out of nowhere? Yeah, I don't. Isn't that weird though? Like I know you have a channel too, and Kick the Theatrics. I never did. He never did tell me why he changed his channel name to Kick the Theatrics. But yeah, that is weird, right? Like they'll just randomly come up on your stream and be like, um, "Can I be a moderator?" I'm like, "Who are you?" It's so weird. Yeah, he's cool. Like he's been busy lately because he usually always tells me to let him know when I'm going live, and often I would forget to do so because I didn't have a planned time to do so. But when I have been telling him, he's been busy lately. You know, he might be going through something. I don't know, because he was asking me about philosophy, and I was like, you should just get a good intro to philosophy textbook, because I think he was looking at philosophy as far as it giving him some sort of definitive answers, and that's not really what philosophy does. Is give definitive answers on anything. Except when it does give definitive answers on something, it stops being called philosophy and becomes a new branch of science. Or it would answer something usually by negations, by showing that something isn't what it is. He's building a great garden area for his cats. But those aren't even his cats, from what I understand. Those are like the neighborhood cats. I have family here to do that. I am not feeding random street cats, because then they're gonna keep always coming around. They just they like they they tend to like kill the local um birds and stuff, or squirrels. Yeah, I don't want I don't want any feral cats coming to my coming up to my house. Is it things that seem definitely lead into a whole new thought. Yeah, so I mean, that's another thing. If people do want to ask me philosophy questions, they can ask me. I've in previous live streams, I've instead of taking comments, I would just read excerpts from some of my philosophy books. Not like I wasn't reading like a whole book or whatever. I would just read like specific excerpts and see how people like it. What did I say? Time for a haircut. Oh, I can't win either way with my hair. So when I have it cut down, people are saying, "Oh, you're bald." I'm like, I'm not bald. And then when I and then when it starts growing, oh, you need a haircut. Like, shut up, suck a dick. They said, yeah, feral cats can be annoying. Yeah, like once you feed them, they're gonna keep coming back. And like I said, I've seen people become like cat ladies or cat guys, whatever, where they built like a little shelter for the street cats. Um, it's like I like animals, but I don't want I don't want street cats coming up to my house because they might get inside. I don't want them inside my house. Besides that, I'm not paying money to take care of some animal. Uh, Tina said, yeah, it was rude, so I didn't think of find it appropriate. Yeah, agreed. But yeah, that's the other thing is I just don't want to spend money taking care of cats because we already have a pet cat, and with my home in the Philippines, we have a cat and two dogs living there because one is uh, belongs to Mrs. Contrarian, and the other one belongs to her sister, and then they just have a cat. So, and the cat wanders around like it is a street cat, like he goes out for the day, and then when he comes back in, she told me he comes back in around 6 a.m. crying for food. He'll eat up all the food and then just leave right back out again. I was like, what kind of? I was like, that cat sounds like a jerk. Excuse me. He said they might urinate on things and destroy your outdoor items. Yeah. Excuse me. Um. Yeah. This is. Yeah. That's right. That's like I don't want street cats. And like I said, they kill all the local small animals, which is good if you have a mouse problem. We do have a mouse problem in this neighborhood, so that's why we keep a cat. Because after the first one died, well, actually he didn't die. He ran away, but he was already very ill. Um, he was an old cat. We had him for like I'm gonna say about almost over 14 years. So he was an old cat, and he ran away. Um, and I'm pretty sure he passed away because he wasn't in the greatest condition. Um, and then we had this really bad mouse problem throughout the whole neighborhood. So we bought another cat, and that cat died almost 2 years later because it had a I forgot what you call it. Like it had like a blood clot that that pretty much made it numb, made half his body numb. I didn't know this was a real thing, but this is something that randomly happens in small dogs and cats. So they can get a blood clot that will cause half their body to just go limp and cause them severe pain before they die. I'm like, damn. So when I noticed he couldn't get up, he was just staying in the bathroom. I'm like, what's like, hey, what's wrong, Mr. Mittens? That is his real name, Mr. Mittens. I was like, what's wrong, Mr. Mittens? He wouldn't get up, so I gave him some water and stuff and took him out the bathroom, and he still wasn't getting up. I was like, oh, there's something wrong. So we took him to the vet, and they told us that day. So they asked him, asked us if we wanted to give him some drugs so he would feel better, but he was still gonna die within a few days or so, something like that. So we just had him put to sleep. And then my mother wasn't gonna get another cat after that because that really hurt her seeing that happen to the little cat because he was a little feisty little devil. Like he could headbutt his way into a bedroom. I don't, I don't know what was up with that. Like he would eat anything that maybe that's what caused the blood clot. I don't know, but like I said, he would eat like a raccoon. He would headbutt his way into houses. I mean, and not into houses. I mean, into like bedrooms and stuff. He was bad, and I think because the my niece and nephew played with him so roughly, he didn't like to be petted or whatever. But it was sad when that happened to him. I forgot what they called that specific disease for them, but yeah, apparently like cats and small dogs can get like these little blood clots, which can be fatal. I forgot the term for it though. The veterinarian told us what it was called, but this was like 4 years ago now, so I forgot. But now we have a female cat. She's all right. She looks like a female Tom from Tom and Jerry, and it was only because I looked it up I found out that she's the same breed of cat that Tom is. He a English, I think it's called a English short-haired cat. And so when I saw a picture of that, I was like, oh, so they drew Tom specifically like a English short-haired cat. Like I thought it was just random that he was that color with the blue fur with the white stomach and mouth. But no, that's actually what they look like. Cats can be feisty. So I'm sorry to hear fur babies have a way to worm their way into your heart. Yeah, I mean, most pets. And I'm not even a cat guy, but you know, I do like animals, but I'm not like one of those people that has to have a pet. But because, like I said, it was mostly pragmatic to get another cat because we had this like infestation of field mice in this neighborhood. So I could set traps, but um, the cat is a little bit better than me. That well, than I setting traps. Someone said smoke detector. Hey Dutch, why don't you check on your mother? I hear she getting clapped up right now. And she can't tell the smoke detector is on either because she's too busy getting clapped up the way your father used to while he was in jail, bitch. And get the fuck off my channel. Anyway, so, Tina says definitely they have their type of magic. We originally had a dog here, a little looked just like Toto. He was a little hyper little thing, but he was super friendly, and we think someone stole him because we would sometimes put him in the backyard. Um, and I think so, pretty sure someone walked off with the dog, and he was just friendly enough to keep following them. So it was just weird how he got away. We called him Petey. Well, my sister named him. That was her little childhood dog. But he looked, I think he was a Scottish Terrier. Looked like a Toto from Wizard of Oz. Thank you, Pokemongo. um, the first that was the first of our goals to, well, one out of 1 out of 10 to get hit. What's up, Arcadian Hobgob? I haven't seen you in a while. Uh, Arcadian says, "Do you think there's any solution to the constitutional violations illegal immigrants are facing today? More judges, barring extended detentions until deportation." Second goal. Thank you, Tina. Um, well, that's a multifaceted question. So the first part is, do you think there's any solution to the constitutional violence illegal immigrants are facing today? Constitutional violations. Um, I don't get that. That I don't get. And then you say more judges and barring extended deportations until deportation. I It's your birthday. Well, happy birthday, Pokemon Go. How if you want to reveal that? Well, how old are you today? He said, "Hey man, thanks for the shout out. Hope all is well with you and the family." Thank you. 11. Oh, okay, you're 11. So I'm gonna have to be nice in the chat. Uh, be nice here. I won't say any foul language. Um, yeah, okay. I maybe if you can rephrase the question, because that's like three questions in one, and I'm not sure what you mean by constitutional violations to illegal immigrants, because the Constitution is for American citizens, not for illegal immigrants. So depending on how you phrase that, like by definition, the Constitution doesn't apply to them. So I'm not. That's why I'm kind of confused what you mean by that. Or maybe you mean that the current presidential administration is violating the Constitution by pursuing these people and having them deported. So that's why I'm kind of confused on that. 1 minute left in the goal. I might reset it. Okay, these are all the gifts. Okay, I'm actually looking at the screen at what sort of gifts people can send. These are cool. Arcadian says, "I could be incredibly confused, but my understanding is that they are usually afforded due process under the Constitution, nor are they supposed to be indefinitely detained until they can be deported." So again, the Constitution doesn't apply to illegal immigrants because by definition they aren't even American citizens. Shout out for the gift. Thank you. Um, they they don't have due process because they're not American citizens. They have they still have a legal process to be heard in court. Um, and that would be through immigration hearings. But I mean, you have to realize just coming here illegally is a crime, and a lot of leftists, not saying you, a lot of leftists don't understand that merely coming here illegally is a crime, and we're pretty lenient on that, as a matter of fact, because most of these countries from which these illegal immigrants come, usually have much harsher um, immigration policies, like especially like Mexico. They don't play when it comes to illegal immigrants in their country, particularly illegal immigrants from other Latin American countries. They kick them out lickety split when they catch them. So we're actually been pretty lenient. On top of that, our efforts to deport folks started in the Clinton era. This is not like, I know everyone wants to hate Trump, but he's not doing anything new. He's continuing the very policies that started under Clinton, continued and ramped up during the Bush era, and ramped up to its highest under Obama. That's why they called him the deporter in chief, and then continued at that same level under Trump and Biden, and now back to Trump again. So it's been bipartisan, and it's not illegal. Like, they're not being violated because by definition they're committing a crime by coming here illegally. Like, they could either come here, um, like if they're coming here to escape some conditions, they could come here and seek asylum. They could, well, I mean, they could apply for as a refugee seeking asylum, or if it's not something that's that drastic, then they could just get here like every other one did. Like, the people who hate illegal immigrants the most are legal immigrants, because they're the ones who came here the right way and did everything they had to do to secure their green card and eventually get citizenship. Whereas these other people come here illegally, so that's already a crime. And then on top of coming here illegally, they're committing crimes while they're here. Or you'll have other people who think they're slick and come here maybe on a visa, or a tourist visa, something like that, then just stay and never go back. Or they'll have a baby here, an anchor baby, and use the baby as a way to stay here. So with they're not being their constitutional rights aren't being violated because they have no constitutional rights. They're not Americans. It wasn't written for Our constitution wasn't written for other people to come here. It was written for Americans. Um, and they don't get due process because, again, due process is something afforded to American citizens. They do have they do go through their own legal they do have legal there are certain legal rights um, for immigrants, but that's not due process because, again, they're not Americans. They don't get due process. They get the legal process of going through an immigration courts. And like I said, the deportations has been happening since the Clinton era. So this is not it's not unconstitutional to round up illegal immigrants and have them deported. On top of that, ICE came out of the Patriot Act in 2003. This wasn't like, I know, again, everyone wants to hate Trump, but again, this came out of George W. Bush with the Patriot Act. Um, so if people want to be mad at Bush, be mad at their parents for voting Bush in office twice, where he enacted the where he got the legislation signed into law, the Patriot Act, which created the Department of Homeland Security and created ICE. That happened under him. And also be mad at every president after George Bush, because each time that the Patriot Act was about to expire, they they signed an extension of its of the Patriot Act into law. Obama reauthorized the Patriot Act. Trump reauthorized the Patriot Act. Biden reauthorized the Patriot Act. So, and it's been uh, the like I said, what um, ICE agents and other and border patrol agents and local law enforcement are doing is by and large protected by the law. So that's, I guess, what I have to say on that. Like I said, illegal immigrants don't have constitutional rights. They're not American citizens. Same thing if you're in another country. If I'm if I'm in Kazakhstan as an illegal immigrant and I get and I get caught and they detain me until I get a hearing for to be ultimately deported or whatever, I can't expect their constitution to protect me because it's not meant for me. It's meant for them, the Kazakhs. So that's what I mean. Arcadian citizen, I might need to do a bit more research. My understanding is, although they are not citizens, certain rights are given to them specifically because they have entered into the interior and not. No, so yes, that's what I'm saying. So there are certain there are certain rights that all people are afforded in the U.S., but they don't get they don't they're not protected by the Constitution because it wasn't written for them. It was written for Americans, and it was written by and for Americans. They don't get due process. Due process is a constitutional right afforded to American citizens. If you're not an American citizen, you don't get due process. Now, permanent residents, I do believe, are afforded due process. Like if you're a permanent resident with a green card, I think I think with you are treated mostly as an American citizen, mostly, but you still don't have the full rights of an American citizen even as a permanent resident. Not until you get to U.S. citizenship. Sorry, need some water. But yeah, like I said, there is a legal process for immigrants uh, to have their so they can have their say in court. But if you've already crossed the border here illegally, like you've already committed a crime. So, like I said, most other countries will kick you out without a second thought. That's why I find it so funny. People protesting as if we're a bad country, where most of these countries these people are fleeing have way more harsh policies for involving their illegal immigrants. Okay, so stop that or close to the border, but thank you for the information. Okay, no problem. But like I said, they do have certain rights, but not constitutional rights per se, because that was written for Americans. I mean, I mean, look how long it took for the Constitution to protect a lot of people here who weren't even considered citizens, like the 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 slaves, the Native Americans. Like you had to make amendments to make them citizens and ensure that they have the full rights of an American citizen. So then you think about immigrants coming here illegally, they they're not afforded that luxury. Tina says that's quite far prior to Trump, which is what people are failing to see. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everyone wants to blame Trump for things that were started 20, 30 plus years ago. People hate MAGA, Make America Great Again, but most of them have were either young or just ignorant to the fact that I remember when Hillary Clinton was running against Barack Obama for president back in 2008. The way they used to talk about um, immigration and deportation and criminality and all that sort of stuff, they sounded like the way a MAGA person would today. If people want to go back to those speeches they made in 2008 when they were running against each other for the Democratic nominee for president. They they were, this wasn't them talking against um, the Republican candidates of the time, like George, like sorry, not George W. Bush, like who ran against uh, I can't remember which person ran against Obama first. Was it Mitt Romney or was it the other guy? But whatever. Like they like when the two Democrats were running against each other, they sounded like they sounded like conservative Democrats today, even though people thought Barack was going to be a progressive candidate. And he got into office, he wasn't progressive at all. Only thing he was progressive on was LGBTQ. That's about it. Okay, he says, well, they are entitled to due process under the law by the Constitution, not to start an argument, but that's just true. It's not. Due process is for American citizens. That's that's just facts. Due process is for American citizens. They are different, but you have to understand there are different legal processes. I didn't say they're not entitled to any legal process. I'm saying they're not entitled to the due process that Americans receive. Like this has been talked about ad nauseum on on talking heads on the news. People like people say they have due process. No, they don't. They're not American citizens. They're not. They are afforded legal rights, but they don't get the due process that American citizens get. This is why immigration courts are a complete separate facet from the judiciary. The immigration courts fall actually under the executive branch. So okay, says, do you think it's a dangerous slope to allow ICE no longer need a signed judge's order to enter into a private residence and just an administrative order? Well, again, that's because, like I said, here, immigration court largely falls under the executive and not the judiciary. This is why. Um, like I said, you don't have to agree with me. Feel free to Google this stuff yourself. But due process is for American citizens alone. Are there legal processes that are afforded to illegal immigrants? Yes, there are, but it's not due process. Due process was meant clearly for Americans. When the founding fathers wrote that into law, they were talking about American citizens. They weren't talking about all the, because think about it. At that time, we wasn't even a full fledged. We weren't even a full fledged union. How could you afford due process to a bunch of people that weren't from the colonies? Like just a bunch of Frenchmen out here in the West, a bunch of Spanish people to the south of us, um, and other British colonialists up north in Canada and stuff like no, the founding fathers wrote due process for American citizens. Now, if you're arguing that it's been extended to immigrants, then that's debatable. But as I understand it, due process is for American citizens and American citizens alone. There are other processes that are afforded to 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 immigrants, but not illegal immigrants. Like illegal immigrants, like they really have no rights because they're not even supposed to be here. They committed a crime by being here. That's like saying if someone breaks into your house, they still have you still have to afford them the right to not harm them, even though they broke into your house. No, if you break into my house, I'm gonna break your head. So Arcadian says, brother, I so agree about that. The Supreme Court and Congress has done a terrible job in the past and now. Uh, Supreme Courts get things right. Sometimes they get things wrong. The law is a moving target. So, but the Constitution is pretty clear on some things, particularly things that fall under the Bill of Rights, like due process. And again, that was for the intention of Americans as we were a new nation and we wanted to avoid the pitfalls of, you know, of the how the British treated uh, their colonies, not giving them any rights and so forth, but basically treating colonialists as second class British citizens that had like no rights. Look something up while we're talking. Uh, I actually have a whole constitution in my sling bag, but I'm not gonna pull it out right now. Pause. Okay, so it says due process is not limited to Americans. It applies to all persons within the United States, including non-citizens. The U.S. Constitution, specifically the Fifth and 14th Amendments, guarantees due process rights to everyone, regardless of their citizenship status. This means that non-citizens, such as undocumented immigrants, are entitled to fair treatment under the law, including to defend themselves in court. This is per the Heritage Foundation. Okay, so I'll stand corrected. So they do get due process. Let me see something. Let me go dig a little bit deeper. I'm surprised since the Heritage Foundation is pretty conservative. So highlight this. And this is immigration cases are civil rather than criminal proceedings, and aliens have limited due process rights as defined. Okay, so yeah, so you were right. I was wrong, but I was wrong with a caveat that they're not afforded the same level of. Let me get some water. All right. So those rights differ depending on whether aliens are trying to enter this country or are already here legally or illegally, as well as their visa or other status. Federal immigration statutes bar aliens from asserting certain claims in federal courts, prohibit any federal court from reviewing specified federal government actions, such as the Attorney General's enforcement of deportation orders, and limit which federal courts have jurisdiction over particular alien claims. The federal courts assuming jurisdiction over such banned, prohibited, or limited claims are violating federal law, and the Supreme Court, if necessary, shall tell them so. There you go. So they are afforded due process, but it's a limited due process compared to American citizens. And the courts they go through. And by the way, and then like as this article also states, when they go through an immigration hearing, It's a civil proceeding, not a criminal proceeding. Now, I think it crosses into criminal when they catch an illegal immigrant who's also broken laws. That, that's when you're also dealing with criminal proceedings, because although crossing into the country illegally is a crime, it's not treated as such by the court unless, since they've been here, they've committed crimes. Now, if they've come here and have also committed crimes in America, then yeah, they're going to go through a criminal proceeding for that as well. So there we go. That clears that up. So I stand corrected. So yeah, they are afforded a limited due process, not the full range of due process rights that an American citizen gets, but they do get a limited due process. And when they go to these immigration hearings, um, it's a civil court, not criminal court, which I never claimed it was criminal. I just claimed that what they did to get here is a crime, which by law it is. But through the immigration courts is not. They treat it as a civil matter, unless the person committed crimes while here in America. Then it becomes criminal. They got to face that criminal a criminal court proceeding. Then have to then have to do the immigrant hearing as well. And also, as it asserts, the, these hearings are through the are pretty much through the executive branch. It seems so. Well, whatever. Who is this retard, Mayor OOO? Go back into the hole that you came out of. Your mother's stinky ass puss. Anyway, okay, this is well. Hey, I appreciate the back and forth. We've been heated in the past, but I think you're a good, cool dude. Hope your channel gets good engagement. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, it says in regards to the immigration stuff, it'll take about 3 hours, and I'm sure you'll get the answers you're looking for. I'm dumber than you for sure. That's what it took me. No, I immediately. I mean, I think that excerpt cleared it up, and like I said, that came from a right leaning. That came from a right leaning think tank, the Heritage Foundation. So being that they even um that, and so I stand corrected. So like I said, I knew they had some sort of process, but I didn't know. I didn't want to call it due process because I wasn't clear. But that made it clear they are afforded due process by the Constitution, but it's a limited due process, not the same. They're not afforded all the same legal rights as an American citizen, but they do get a limited due process. All non-citizens, while in the states, have a limited due process. So there you go. Time do I got here? 11:08. Uh, okay, so no worries. Uh, only one being knows all things. So yeah. Um, and I gave a defense about ICE either yesterday or the other day, where I was saying, like, with people protesting the whole Renee Good thing. I'm like, she was an asshole. Like, the like I said, if you remove all the politics from it, which side you fall on, it becomes a matter of self defense. And in the moment where speeds off in a car in a direction where they could potentially run you down their vehicle, you are you are justified in shooting at them. Because as I said, self-defense doesn't have to be perfect for it to still be counted as self-defense. And a car running coming at you would be pretty justifiable for drawing a weapon. So, and like I said, and also what I said is, I ICE is the only federal law enforcement, well, the only law enforcement agency that I know where people are emboldened to set up uh, watch groups to follow them and dox them and all that sort of stuff. Like if people were doing this to any other law enforcement agency, they would get that. It would go a very bad way. But ICE has to put up with that. And then I mean, like you are harassing them during an investigate where they're in the midst of an investigation or operation. Um, they try to dox them, and some people even try to hit them. I've seen, I think, yeah, some silly white woman tried to hit one of those ICE agents. He knocked their ass, knocked their ass back. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, I think unfortunately the only thing the ICE agent could be held responsible for is a policy violation, not allowed to use deadly force explicitly just to stop someone from fleeing detention. No, he was justified. He was justified. He's not going. He's like he was justified. It wasn't like she was fleeing away from him. She flew like she was fleeing. First of all, you can't like if if they want to hold you, like if they're going to arrest you, if you committed some sort of arrestable offense, you can't just flee. That's number one. Two, if she flees in a car in a direction that may hit him, he's justified in thinking she might harm him, and he can draw his weapon on her. That's that stupid bitch's fault. I'm sorry. That was her. Oh shoot, I said I wouldn't cuss because we gotta. Oh, I think she left. Little kiddo. Uh, oh, let me watch my language either way. But yeah, like no law enforcement agency could like local, state, county, federal. They wouldn't put up with all that stuff the ICE has to put up with every day. I wish someone would try that to a NYPD. See how fast they get smacked up. Like this is crazy. The stuff they think, like people like these people who these stupid. It's mostly a bunch of stupid liberal white women and a bunch of little fanuc men out there doing this stuff, but they think just because they dislike ICE and disagree with what they're doing, that they can commit a crime against a law enforcement officer. No, you can't. Just because you don't like this is what they taught black people. You have to be in compliance. This is what they will always teach young black children. You can't be out there disrespecting the officer. Like we want you guys to come home alive. We already know that some of them mistreat black people, so which is very few actually. Not, but anyway, let's just say that all cops had it in for young black men. Then the smart thing would be to respect the officer and be in compliance. And that's what people used to always use against black men who got you know um, killed while being detained or arrested by an officer or whatever. He should have complied. So I'm gonna say the same thing to all these little stupid liberal white women. You should have complied. You should have complied. What makes you think you can jump out of a car, harass someone, impede their investigations of a suspect, then from pursuing, flee um, from you know being detained for questioning, and then almost hit the officer asking you to do these things. No, the cop was within his legal rights to shoot at her. And no, he's not going to shoot the tires out or do any of that dumb shit. They're not taught to shoot people's tires out. This is not a Hollywood film. This is not a Jason Bourne film, not a 007 film, not some cheesy cop film from the 80s and 90s. No, they're taught to shoot to kill, center mass, because they only shoot as a last resort when they think that is their last option. If someone is speeding away in a car in a way that might possibly hit you, you are justified in shooting them. It just comes down to self defense, whether you like ice or not, whether you like the woman's cause or not. She was in the wrong, and it cost her life. Okay, says, I think the people following the ICE agents could be compared to Paul Revere. Everyone loved what Paul Revere did at the time, considered a true American. Yeah, except that Paul Revere didn't do that. That is a story that comes out of an old American poem. Paul, first of all, they're not. Well, first of all, it's not even a good analogy. That what Paul Revere. I don't know how old you are, but that was corrected in American history a long time ago. That was just a poem. Paul Revere was not saying, not yelling, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" That did not happen. First of all, most American colonialists at the time still considered themselves British. So it would have been just weird to say the British are coming. Like, what British? We are British. On top of that, he didn't. It wasn't he who rode across to the other towns warning them that the that the English soldiers were coming in. There was two other guys that did that, not Paul Revere. So that you're quoting something this this becomes pseudo history in America based off an American poem. That's not what happened. He didn't go gallivanting into the night yelling, "The British are coming, the British." That's what they taught little kids in the 80s. And by the 90s, I think most people realized that wasn't what really happened. That came out of a poem. On top of that, what the woman was doing was not anywhere near warning American colonialists that the British foot soldiers were approaching. They're 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 helping illegal immigrants. Many of them who are wanted for crimes, like the ICE agent was telling someone else. He's like, we have a convicted um, SO um, that we're trying to pursue, and you're impeding our investigation. What the fuck is wrong with you people? The people that ICE are apprehending are wanted for crimes. Over millions of them came here during the Biden administration and previous administrations who had already committed crimes in their countries and or are wanted for crimes here in America, and they slipped through the cracks because since they were illegal immigrants, there was no way to track their status they came once they dispersed into the country. So they're going from place to place finding these people, and in the process, if people hide those folks, then when they go to round up those people who are wanted for crimes here in America, and then they're going to round up everyone who are also illegal immigrants who are around them. Like I said, if most of these law enforcement agencies in each state or city worked with ICE, it would make it an easier process where they're not going to have to round up everyone just to pursue this one particular suspect. Arcadian says, well, Mr. NYPD, try and stop someone from following you and filming you and see what happens. Who are you referring to, me or the troll that just got put into got set down by my moderator? Some some retard here calls himself Apple Jacks McDonald, says, yo, Ice took my grandpa. Can you pray for him with me? Fuck you and your grandpa, bitch. Get off my motherfucking channel, whore. Suck a dick. Now, anywho, anyway, Arcadian says, well, regardless if it was Paul or not, the analogy is not actually perfect. A person or group, as you said, did not agree with what the government at the time was doing, and they wanted warn people about said government as agents. No, it is not a perfect analogy. I don't know what you are talking about, brother. It's not. It is not. You're talking about an invading force. The people who were warning the people of Lexington and Concord and whatever of their approaching British centuries were warning Americans of an invading force. That's not the same thing. You're talking about completely the opposite of defending illegal immigrants who come here committing fucking crimes against Americans. They're here illegally and they're committing crimes. What the fuck are you talking about? That is not an analogy. You don't even know American history very well because you still believe the whole myth that Paul Revere rode into the night saying the British are coming. That was based on off of a poem. That's not real history. Luckily, I've taken history in college, so I know what the fuck. I took American history in college, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Those folks who rode into the night and warning other American colonists of an invading force is not the same as a bunch of fat liberal feminist white faggots going around harassing police officers. That is a crime, harassing an officer during an investigation. And the invading force are the fucking illegal immigrants. They come they come here with the MS-13s and the this is one of the reasons we fucked up Venezuela. They released thousands of their criminals to come to America. And this wasn't the first time that a country did that. Cuba did that shit in the 70s too. That was the whole plot of Scarface. Cuba emptied out its prisons and sent all their degenerates to America. That happened in the 70s. And Venezuela was using the same playbook. That's why we have all this Trinidad folks. So your analogy is completely disanalogous. The invading force here are the illegal immigrants. Just as during colonial times, the invading force was the British century. Yeah, Applejacks. I don't give a fuck what you say, so I'm not gonna even bother reading what you got to say because you came here talking some bullshit. So fuck you. Anyway, Arcadian says the troll should have made that clear. My apologies. No problem. He said, well, you already mentioned most of the people there at the time were British subjects, and also they were British subjects in America before the Revolutionary War. As I said, the American colonialists largely still considered themselves British at the time. So Paul Revere was not yelling, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" That is comes out of a poem that was not historically accurate. On top of that, the invading force would have been the British centuries. By this time, the Americans considered the the colonialists considered themselves Americans, except for, but then you had the British loyalists who sided with the British Empire. Then you had the other colonialists who were the rebels, the rebel. Let me, but no, but no one would have been yelling the British. But yes, they would have been an invading force. They were literally an invading force coming from the United Kingdom to America. That is the definition of an invading force. The same way that illegal immigrants coming here are an invading force. I don't get how you misunderstood that. How you had how you say to these people um, harassing officers doing an investigation are doing the same work as the American revolutionists. That that is completely disanalogous. Completely disanalogous. It's completely disanalogous. I don't know how you see one as the other. They're not. You're talking about illegal immigrants here who are being apprehended because they've committed crimes in America. That's the only way they know how to track these people is that they have committed a crime in the first place. So they're in the system. This is how ICE knows where they are and how to get them because they're in the system for committing crimes. And again, when it comes to law enforcement, if you set up watchdog groups to harass officers and to follow them while they're on duty or doing patrol, that would could be considered domestic terror. No, yeah, I've already um, sat uh, Apple, whatever his name is, uh, I sat him down. He won't be joining anymore. He's, I don't deal with retards. Okay, he says yes, but they were the government of the time, and the writers were actively impeding government. No, it's not analogous. At the time, the American colonialists already set up their own government by the time of the Revolutionary War. They had set up their own government through the articles of what was it called, the Articles of the Confederation or whatever. That was the precursor to the U.S. Constitution. The colonists they all had colonial. They each all 13 colonies had their separate colonial governments, but they but by the time of the Revolutionary War, they decided to set that aside for a union, and it was first uh, done so under the Articles of what's it called, the Articles. Yeah, the Articles of the Confederation. That was our original Constitution. So they already they already were a they already were a sovereign government by the Articles of the Confederation. Not to mention, they had already specified a year prior to that, in 1776, that they were breaking away from the British government. Again, the British coming here were an invading force in the same regards that the illegal immigrants now are an invading force. Like I said, the reason they can apprehend certain these suspects is because they're already in the system for breaking law, for committing other crimes aside from coming into the country illegally, which is already a crime in itself. But they know how to apprehend these folks because either they're given tips or they've tracked or they they're going through the system finding all these people who don't belong here who've committed crimes. And you cannot sit again, you cannot sit there and harass officers while while they are undergoing an investigation. You cannot do that. And I don't care. Like I said, people think they can get away with it because it's ICE, and they think ICE are just glorified security guards. This is a federal law enforcement agency. Like I said, they their enforcement agency under the supervision of the Department of Homeland Security. Um, so, like I said, people don't have to like them, they don't have to respect them, but you cannot commit crimes against law enforcement. It doesn't matter whether they're ICE, FBI, state state troopers, city police, county police, and any of them. You cannot harass them during an investigation. You cannot put hands on them as well. Like the gall that people will think they can punch an officer and get away with it is astounding to me. And and if they want to question you, you cannot just speed off in your car. So you you you're trying to force an analogy that doesn't stick because you say yes, but they were the government of the time, and the quote unquote riders were actively quote unquote impending government actions. Again, no, the colonialists at that point had their own government under the Articles of Confederation, and a year prior, in 1776, they had already broken away from the British Empire. The whole Declaration of Independence, written by my ancestor. Uh, was, I don't know what Applejack said to you, but yeah, I timed him out. Uh, okay, says the riders were before the Tea Party, and we won freedom from the British. No, no, it wasn't. Like I said, you need to reread your American history. That this already happened. Again, the colonialists already had their own government. British coming here would have been an invading force. It's like someone trying to collect something that someone coming to collect something that no longer belongs to them. Okay, so Let's see here. Is this Heritage Foundation? No, this is, oh, How Stuff Works. So yeah, I think this happened in 1775, April 18th, 1775. But let me, but yeah, the whole Paul Revere thing is fiction. So let me state this. So the British are coming. The British are coming. If not for the shouts of Paul Revere counting from atop galloping horse, tearing through the streets of Concord, Massachusetts, unsuspecting colonists may never have been warned of the British Army's impending attack, thanks to Revere's courageous midnight ride from Lexington to Concord in April 1775. He thwarted a certain thrashing of colonial forces and became a pivotal figure in the American Revolution, a retelling of his hair-raising journey in Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, The Midnight Run. Move ads. The Midnight Run of Paul Revere cemented his place in history. It's a tale most Americans know. Except we don't, because Paul Revere's ride never actually happened, at least not the way we think it did. Paul Revere didn't ride through the streets of Concord hollering a warning. He didn't even make it to Concord at all. Exactly, which is exactly what I learned in college. He never made the ride at all to Concord. So it doesn't it doesn't bode well that you're trying to defend a bunch of people harassing ICE agents with a fictional story. And yes, this is in 1775, prior to the Articles of Confederation. But again, the colonialists had their own system of government by that time. They had a judiciary, they had an executive, they had a legislative. They had all of that, and it was basically modeled after English common law. But the look, you can defend those people, but this is not a good analogy because there are not strong parallels to people who would follow and dox ICE agents. Like they even dox them and their families. Not to mention that very officer who shot that woman, he had he had just came back on duty after previously being dragged by a vehicle during a previous pursuit. And I don't know why you're talking about the Tea Party. The Tea Party is nothing to brag about. That was pure terror. And the Americans were clearly wrong with that one. They that was simply a horrific thing to do to people. Oh no, I'm thinking no, not the Tea Party. I'm thinking anyway. I'm thinking of the tarring and feathering, which may have happened there. The Tea Party, but no, the Tea Party happened 2 years before. 2 years before the alleged Paul Revere ride. That was 2 years prior. So I don't believe the illegal aliens qualify under the Illegal Alien Invasion Act. That requires a plot from a government we've declared war with. I doubt most of the illegals here are in collusion with or have been directed to come here by their government, let alone the fact that we haven't declared war with most of the countries these people are from. You're missing the point. They came here illegally. What are you talking about? The Illegal Asian Invasion Act. The people ICE are pursuing are people who have committed crimes. That was stated from the beginning of the second Trump administration. They were going to apprehend all illegal immigrants who have committed crimes here in America or were wanted for crimes in their mother country. That's the only reason they know that they're illegal immigrants anyways. They've been run through the system. Like, I don't get people like you defending illegal immigrants who have committed crimes here. That shit doesn't make any sense. They're only apprehending the people who committed crimes because those are the people who are in the system. Like people who are defending the so-called Maryland man. That nigga was an MS-13 who beat up his wife and was seen with other people committing human trafficking. Okay, it says I totally agree. Obstruction or assault are physical acts. I think impeding is a bullshit term. Excuse the language. Impeding is not a bullshit term because you cannot. That's why I keep saying you keep thinking of ICE as if they're not law enforcement agencies. Since when can you flee from the cops if they want you? Anybody else in the chat room? When can you flee from an officer and think you're going to get away with that? And you're just going to have a warrant for your arrest. Or you're going to be, or you're going to lead a high speed chase, which is also a crime. So you're fleeing from an officer, which means then you're going to engage in a high speed chase with police officers. And if they don't catch you, fine. They're going to send out a warrant for your arrest. ICE would do the same thing, impeding. Yes, you cannot impede a police investigation. You cannot impede a police investigation. You cannot impede a police investigation. I'm gonna do it like Dr. Umar because I've seen that's how people have to get things. Sometimes you gotta repeat it. You cannot impede cops during an investigation. It's not a bullshit term. You cannot do that. Again, you're only saying that because you don't respect ICE as law enforcement. Because you cannot do that to a city cop. I wish you would try to stop a city cop from arresting someone. You're gonna get arrested too, and that's what's happening to these idiots. They're trying to impede a federal investigation of a wanted suspect, and when you do so, you get arrested yourself. You cannot impede an investigation. It is an arrestable offense by any law enforcement. I don't see where you don't get that. And then you keep drawing parallels to a fake history of America about a Paul Revere ride that never happened. It no. Is he related to one of the guys that helped write the Articles of Confederation? It's truly badass. Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I mean, I don't like how it happened, the whole thing between Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings, but that's history. You say you call it an invasion. I'm assuming because Trump calls it an invasion. Again, no, you're just you're being an ideologue. Again, you don't know history. I don't know how old you are, Arcadian, but again, a lot of you are politically illiterate. You don't see you didn't see this shit happening during the Clinton era. There are plenty of stuff you can watch online to show you just how harsh Clinton talked about illegal immigrants. Bill Clinton. Then after him, when things got ratcheted up under the Bush administration, where the Patriot Act was signed and authorized into law, creating the Department of Homeland Security and creating the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He followed in the same footsteps as Bill Clinton did. Then Obama did the same thing and he reauthorized the Patriot Act, even though people hated it so much. They didn't say nothing about him reauthorizing the Patriot Act, saying we still needed it so that we could apprehend terror suspects and all that sort of stuff. Where he did his secret drone wars and he became the deporter in chief. He detained and deported more immigrants than Trump did. And then after him, Trump comes into office for his first term, and he again just follows in the footsteps of Obama, Bush, and Clinton. When Biden beat him, he continued the same process as Trump, Obama, Bush, and Clinton. So you keep saying I'm calling invasion because of Trump. They were saying this again. You're politically illiterate on these things because they talked about them in those same terms under Clinton and Obama. Matter of fact, like I said, I don't know if you heard this in the stream earlier, but like I said, in the 2008 Democratic uh, campaign, when Obama and Hillary were running against each other, they sounded like MAGA when they talked about illegal immigration, uh, stopping criminals, and all this sort of stuff. They were sounding like MAGA back then in those speeches when they were debating each other. So I'm tired of people with this Trump derangement syndrome talking all this bullshit as if this is everything is new under Trump. He's continuing the same policies that have been around for the past 30 years or longer. It's just that when he does it, everyone hates it because you have a knee-jerk reaction to him. And again, I suggest that people who think everything Trump is evil need to seek counseling. You guys need to seek counseling because most of these people with Trump derangement syndrome are dealing with anxiety disorders, depression disorders, or OCD, if not, and maybe on the spectrum as well. Because I don't know how. On top of that, most of you are politically illiterate and historically illiterate. Where you would have known all these policies are a continuation of shit that's been happening since the Clinton era. I'm glad I paid attention to the news when I was a kid. Uh, he said, "Well, hey, it seems like it's just you and me. Thank you for the response. I wish you the best. Probably see you again soon if you stream again. Well, of course, I'll always be streaming." Okay, and says you can flee an officer if it's in illegal detention. Plenty of case law to back that up, sir. You cannot flee. You cannot flee an officer. You cannot do that. You will be you. There will be a warrant out for your arrest if you do so. You're telling people bad advice. People who watch this on replay, do not listen to that. You cannot flee an officer because you consider it an illegal detention. How do you know it's an illegal detention? You Are you a lawyer? Are you a law enforcement officer? Who justifies you in saying there's something that a cop that wants to arrest you is doing so illegally? That's for the courts to decide. So if you flee a law enforcement officer, there will be a warrant out for your arrest the next day. You cannot flee an officer. You cannot impede an officer's investigation. Do not listen to people like him who are trying to tell you stuff just because they hate Trump. Do not listen to these people. You cannot you cannot harass a police officer doing an operation or investigation. Period. If you are wanted for questioning, you cannot flee an officer. That is a crime, and they will put a warrant out for your arrest. Period. So that's what I'm going to say on that. He says Dr. Umar is a proud black man. No, he's a con artist. Yeah. Dr. Umar is not getting any love on my channel. He's a fucking con artist. He's a goofy ass, hotep ass, bitch ass, fat fucking weird ass nigga who preys on middle aged black women. Fuck him and fuck everything Dr. Umar represents. Okay, this is a parting word. I voted for Trump. No TDS here, sir. Okay, well, again, trying to defend trying to defend illegal immigrants on the grounds that they are that the people watching ICE are tantamount to the American revolutionists. It's not a That's not a good argument. That's just not a good argument to make. It's really not, because it's full of the holes that I just mentioned, and if I wasn't so drowsy, I could probably point out way more. But no, again, people who disagree with me, do your due diligence. Use ChatGPT, use Google Gemini, use Grok, or some other open AI, use Microsoft Copilot, whatever, and you will see that the policies that Trump are doing started in the Clinton era. So if you're gonna be mad at all of those presidents who used the same policies, the same tactics, um, who interpret the law in the same way to give them justification for doing what they did. Didn't start with Trump. Okay, it says it's an illegal detention if they can't provide what's called RAS, which stands for reasonable articulable suspicion. Again, that but that's not for that individual to decide. You cannot decide that as an individual that, oh, they didn't provide me the RAS. What? So every person walking the streets to, to and fro, going to work, going home, blah 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 blah, are supposed to know that a cop is not detaining them for reasonable articulable suspicion. No, that is for the courts to decide, not that individual. The best thing you can do is not resist arrest, go in, and then you have your say in court when you see the the administrative judge. Then they will, then if they think that it didn't meet the reasonable articulable suspicion, the the judge will decide that, not you. You as an individual cannot decide that. you you can't. If you flee an officer, you're going to have a warrant for your arrest anyway, and that's going to look worse on you trying to defend yourself, saying that the cop didn't have a right to detain them in the first place. Your best bet would be just to let them arrest you, get detained, so then you can see your court, see the judge, and the judge seeing that it was a frivolous arrest will immediately release you. Again, you're giving horrible advice to people. Like, you're giving horrible advice. You cannot follow officers. You cannot impede their investigations. You cannot harass them. And if they want you for questioning, you cannot just flee away. You cannot do that. This is why black people get shot all the time for doing stupid shit. And you're going to encourage young people who don't know any better to do that? That's horrible advice. It's horrible advice. So I'm surprised you, as a black man, you don't know this. What the fuck does that supposed to mean? I don't get arrested, dude. Well, all black people get arrested, huh? Is that what that is? I don't have any problems with the cops. And like I said, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to listen to a random person online who didn't even know that Paul Revere was a fake story based off of a poem. And then you're trying to call these Ice Watch groups as freedom riders. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. They are people. Again, if you did this to any other sort of law enforcement, they will readily arrest you for harassing them during an investigation, trying to stop you from arresting someone just because they like the person. You can't do that. You're going to get arrested too. And if they want you for questioning and you flee, you're going to have a warrant for your arrest. And no, I don't know about all legal matters because that's not my fort. That's not what I studied in school. I didn't go to school for a meaningless criminal justice degree. That's a bullshit degree anyway. and assume, oh, because I'm a black man, I should know what reasonable. Blah, 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 blah. No, 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 no. Fuck out of here. Yo, no. What I know is what I've learned, because every black kid gets the talk when they reach puberty, is to comply with officers. You comply. That's how you don't get shot or get arrested. You comply with the officer. And if they're just questioning you, and you're, regardless of whether you are actually innocent or not, be like, um, officer, are you going to arrest me or am I free to go? They're like, oh, well, we don't have anything on you, so you're free to go. That's it. End of discussion. Boom. But you cannot just resist arrest or flee. You cannot follow you cannot follow officers during their patrols. That is sinister. That would be sinister. The Chicago Commissioner of Police specified this last week when they were talking about this. You cannot do this to law enforcement agents. It would be considered like domestic terror that you have people who are secretly following and watching what the police do, finding out their identities, doxing them, putting their families at risk. When these people are apprehending illegal immigrants who have committed crimes in this country, that's the only reason they know how to find them in the first place, because they're in the system, because they're wanted for crimes, either here or back in their country. So, I said, don't use AI. Friends and chat read case law. It's harder, but it's true. Again, yeah. So you're asking the typical citizen to read case law to know that a cop doesn't have reasonable. No, no, that's just fucking dumb. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be nice. That's fucking dumb. You expect every single fucking American citizen, 340 million people, to all have read case law to know when they're within their rights to resist arrest. That's stupid. Like, no, that's no. So 340 Americans are supposed to read tons of case law to know more, to know when they can resist arrest from a law enforcement officer. That's crazy. If you believe you're innocent, you just let them arrest you and have the judge clear everything up and release you immediately. To which that cop will be reprimanded. He said we're supposed to know our rights. Yes, the government wants us to not know our rights, and you're telling people to be ignorant. That's crazy. No, you're being crazy. First of all, you used a fucking analogy to a fictional fucking history that doesn't fucking exist, comparing these ICE watchdog groups to them. Then you're saying that people can flee arrest from an officer. That's that's fucking crazy. That's how people get shot, fleeing arrest. And the first thing people are gonna say is, well, why was he running from why was he running away from the police? You, your advice is shit. And now you're saying, well, every American needs to know their rights, so they need to read case law. So every fucking 340 plus million people are supposed to read case law to know when they can resist the arrest of an officer. That's fucking stupid. I'm sorry, that's dumb as hell. Yes, criminal justice degrees are useless. It is a textbook example of a bullshit degree. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this channel about bullshit degrees like criminal justice degrees, communication degrees, family study degrees. It's a bullshit degree. These are the people who with them protect many black people wrongfully arrested every day. No, no, they don't. You don't need a fucking criminal justice degree to get into a criminal justice career. That's why it's considered a bullshit degree. Any degree that you don't need to get into the very career for which that major is suited is a bullshit degree. You don't need a criminal justice degree to get any career in criminal justice. Same with communications. You don't need a communications degree to do anything dealing with communications. You don't need family studies degree to run a daycare center or to have your own family. It's a bullshit degree. Everyone knows criminal justice is a bullshit degree in college. Why would people waste 4 years on that shit when they can actually learn something that will benefit society, like engineering, math, science, history? Wait, what did I just pin? Oh, oh. And you keep saying they protected many black people. You're not in the position to talk about who protects black people. You know who protects black people? Black people protect black people. Not someone, not people with a bullshit criminal justice degree. Most law enforcement officers do not have criminal justice degrees. No. All right. Anyway, I'm done with this. You're talking. You're just talking gibberish at this point. You keep moving the goalposts, and I've been trying to be nice about it, but I'm gonna start calling out all these logical fallacies here. You're already moving the goalposts. You're using red herrings. You keep moving the goalposts from one thing to the next because you can't prove what you fucking said in the previous. You were already disproved when you said the whole Paul Revere shit, which is fictional American history based off of a poem. Then you try to compare him to the people who are watching and doxing ICE agents. It doesn't make sense. When the Freedom Riders were warning of an invading British force, eh, these watch groups are not telling people of an invading force. ICE or our government is for our government. Just like the colonists had their own government with their own law enforcement, their own courts of law, their own legislation, their own executive, blah 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 blah. This becomes circular. As far as you know, I'm black. I don't care. You keep saying black people this, black people that. I don't. You don't speak for all black people, nor do I. And like I'm saying, it's fucking retarded thinking 340 million people are supposed to study case law to know when they can flee it. They can flee from an officer. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm ending this now because this is pointless. I'm not gonna stay up all night talking with someone who's saying bullshit.